Okay, we are all set, Susanna. You're on mute, hon.
All right, let's try this again. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending our semi-annual captains meeting. As you know, we have 2 of these a year, one ahead of our fall winter season and the second ahead of our spring summer season, to outline kind of what you should know going into the season, some of the things we've learned about the current season wrapping up, anything you should be informed about in terms of regulations, changes, championships. You know, much of the last 2 years has been dominated by COVID and COVID protocol. So maybe we'll touch on that and hopefully less and less as we go along. Any initiatives that USTA has going that you should know about, and, you know, upcoming important dates and anything. Then we open it up for questions. Usually the way we do this is, you know, as different parties present, you can type your questions in chat and we'll address them kind of towards the end of the meeting and address all the questions. So hopefully everybody got the attachments we sent around. Those are really helpful documents. The main one is the agenda. We'll just go through the main areas. The other 2 documents, or 3 documents rather, that are really helpful that, you know, when you get a chance, check it out. One is the timeline. So for the different leagues we have going on in the spring, summer season, you'll see the important dates, the formats, when the deadlines are, when the league will run. The other document, which I think is very helpful, is really frequently asked questions. You know, a lot of the same questions come up over and over again. How many out of level players I can have? When is the last time to register a player? If I have a player who's turning 55 on December 31, can they join my 55 and over team? Those kinds of really, you know, 80% and 90% of the questions we get are probably captured in that document. So if you ever, you know, have a couple of minutes, just read over it, refresh your memory, and that can't hurt. And lastly, the attachment at the end is our easy reference sheet. We got a lot of great feedback on that. Thank you to Andrew who put that together. Hopefully we won't be changing it too often. Maybe we'll next year. But that's a very, very helpful document. Always good to you know, kind of read over it and just remind yourself, oh, what's my warm up? What's the medical timeout? You know, this stuff happens, and truly, I'd say 90% of the, you know, conflicts and issues we get on court have to do with match ending rules, and those are nicely outlined in that flow chart, so that players know what they're in for, and there are no hurt feelings about, you know, the match clocking out at the 2-hour mark, and, you know, one of the teams is so close, but that's just, you know, we're at some point we have to run it to make sure we move this along. So with that, today, aside from me, we have Christy Bennett, who's our director of USTA Leagues. Thank you for joining us, Christy. John Pagano, who is the Connecticut State League Committee Chair. He can talk a little about our league committee initiatives. I will talk about some of the upcoming programs and things to be mindful of. And Andrew will wrap up the last bit on sportsmanship and any upcoming regulations and any issues that came up that, you know, we'll need to be mindful of as captains and players, so that we can move the league without any issues. So maybe we'll start with Christy, if you don't mind, just to go over kind of general what to expect in championships and any COVID related issues and anything else that you think may be worth mentioning.
Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for being on tonight. We do appreciate your time and your attention, and we appreciate you just doing all the captaining that you do, because it's really amazing. I'm very excited about 2022 championships. We're looking forward to having fewer and fewer protocols for COVID than we did last year. So right now we're still in the same situation where we're going by state and local guidelines, club guidelines. It does seem like everybody's loosening up, even in the indoor spaces. So hopefully by the time championships roll around, we'll be good. We'll make sure and communicate those out to you as quickly as we can when it gets closer to the championships. As always, you know, you guys, communication is the key. Communicating to your players and making sure that they get the information so that everybody's on the same page. If you guys happen to have any safety issues, please bring that to Susanna's attention as soon as possible so that we can address it and make sure that everybody's play experience is good and positive. And then the post-match socialization is always at the discretion of the club. And I think everybody's been loosening up on that a little bit too, which is really exciting. We did run the tri-level tournament at Ludlow and Enfield a couple of weeks ago. Masks were required on court, but they were able to socialize and watch each other. And it was really good to get everybody out there, and the play was really great. The main thing I want you guys to know this year for the championships themselves is that we're going back to pre-COVID regulations, where last year we gave a lot of slack for teams pulling out afterwards, after we had published the schedule. For some defaults, we gave a lot of refunds. That was a really unusual situation. So this year, when we send out the championship regulations, please make sure that you know them, you understand the times. You have to be there 30 minutes early, ready to play with your lineup in, or we can start the clock for a default. Once we've published the schedule, if your team pulls out for anything other than a really catastrophic reason, the section league committee can fine you and can keep you from captaining in future years. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure you've got plenty of players. If it's a 5-line match like the adult 18 and over, try to come with more than 8 players. So if somebody gets hurt or something happens, it is a no default championship. So if you default 1 line in any of the championship round robin play, that line gets defaulted throughout the whole championship if you've already played it and every future one, just so that it mathematically works out for all the teams. It gets really frustrating if you get there and that happens. So if you have any questions about any of that as we get closer, please let me know. We are going to have virtual captains meetings before every championship, so we can go over all of this again and make sure that everybody understands and everybody's ready to go. The other thing that's not mentioned in the paperwork, and I forgot to pop it in there, is the way we're going to look for wild cards this year is by percentage of games won. So I like 4-team round robins. It makes for a nice little, everybody gets to play the right number of matches. So if we've got a 3-team flight, we're going to go across the whole section, look at the percentage of games won, and pull the highest percentage of games won and ask that team to come as a wild card. So when you're on Tennis Link and you're looking at the standings, the percentage of games won is on the far right-hand side. Everybody can see it, so you can kind of tell, if your percentage of games won as a second place team is in the 30%, you're probably not going to be in the running, but if it's in the 60s, you probably are. And as we get closer, we can also give you guys as much of a heads up as possible for when we're going to know that we need wild cards. Typically, we don't know until about 2 weeks before the championship, so it's kind of a tight turnaround. And so that's kind of all I had. I just wanted to say hi and check in. Oh, our colors this year for Color Wars is Carolina Blue. So that's a good color for us because it's also the color in our logo. So that's fantastic. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. You can always reach out to me or Susanna, and we'll take care of whatever you guys need.
And Christy, just to clarify, that wild card is section wide. So don't look just at your flight or your league. I mean, there are 10 other local areas in New England. So it'll be, somebody out there whose data you don't have, visibility.
Yeah, section wide. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Christy. We look forward to championships. I think at least one of my teams will be there. John, did you want to go over some board staff and just general hi?
Sure. I was just saying, all right, thank you very much, Christy. And I want to say thank you to Susanna for basically making everything run smoothly. I know it hasn't been easy over the past couple seasons, but very much appreciated as a captain myself. And Andrew is going to be doing a presentation later on additional regulations, which I know is not easy. So thanks again for that. I want to say, again, welcome. I guess the main thing is we appreciate the captain. So one of the things the league committee has been working on is a captain appreciation event. So one of the ideas is actually we're going to go out to you. So I guess check your at sometime in the near future, you're going to be receiving an email about just getting some feedback of what kind of event you'd like and what we can do to promote you, because we know as a captain, it's not an easy job all the time. So that's the main thing that I wanted to bring in, is just kind of keeping an eye out on your emails. We'll be sending most likely a jot form soon. And that's it. I guess I'll turn it now back to Susanna. Susanna, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so keep an eye out for that email that will go out to the captains. There'll be a form asking for your input as to what type of an event you'd be interested in seeing. Hopefully we can pull together something with some general, hopefully tennis or just general merriment, to just get together and get to know each other outside of kind of the all business. The next section, just general sort of housekeeping issues. It's an intermittent issue, but it's not just specific to USTA. I've seen this come up. Again, those of you who have Optimum emails, for some reason, Optimum does not like these big mass email distribution lists. And it doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally I'll get a bunch of them kicked back. So, if you're not getting emails, it's not necessarily because you're off the list, but because, something happened. So I'm going to have to try to resend. To the extent you have an Optimum email and you have an alternate, I wouldn't mind swapping it out. So just keep that in mind, but hopefully they'll get that sorted, and we'll continue to, be in touch with you about anything that's time sensitive, anything that's coming up that you need to know about. We are now in the thick of planning our spring summer leagues. Just wanted to put a general message out there on flight allocation, as I'm getting a lot of questions about this from, several years of doing this now and having been a captain and a player. The number one consideration in creating flights is geography. We understand that, traveling a long distance really is just not particularly practical. And for our captains and players, and for captains to mobilize the players, travel distance is of importance. Obviously for your home matches, you get a lot more players than for the away matches. So that is the number one consideration. But outside of that, to the extent we can, we try to infuse some variety in your flights. So, we try to move things around so that you don't play the same teams over and over again. So I just really urge you to, keep in mind that some travel is expected. We run Southern Connecticut, really spans all the way from technically some parts of New York, Westchester County, all the way up to Guilford and Middlebury and New Haven. And while, you may not have to travel that far in a regular season, just kind of consider that this is not, it's not a Fairfield County league, it's not a Stamford league, it's a Southern Connecticut league, and just be a little more open-minded about, once or twice a season having to trek a little bit, just to get that better experience playing new players. I think we've been doing this in some of our mixed leagues where we have one flight where, we kind of balance the home and away, and teams get to play teams they've never seen before. You don't really want to play the same 3 teams over and over again. It just really kind of gets boring, I think. So it's a bit of a trade-off. So to the extent you can kind of meet us there, I would really appreciate it. And I get it. I get that getting players to travel is a bit of a pain, but hopefully the experience, some of my best matches I've played were in clubs that are an hour away, and they have the best food. So, whatever you can do to kind of encourage your players to do that, that would be great, because sometimes we just also don't have a choice. In smaller leagues, we want to make sure everybody that is able to participates regardless of geography. I touched on the next topic during the introduction. The easy reference sheet is really a very good tool for you guys. And what many captains and clubs have done is they've created binders for their teams, or they've laminated it, and they're keeping these at their front desk. And when a team checks in, each court gets a copy of that so they can quickly reference. Again, probably 90% of our disputes are over match ending rules and who the winner was. So, once you get burned once, you generally know how it works, but have your players look at it, have them be familiar. I mean, I'm not kidding. From women's 2-5 to women's 4-5, there's a question, regardless of how long you've been playing. So to the extent we can avoid that, that'd be great. We do continue to use our Southern Connecticut League website for any important documents being posted, any championship information, any upcoming dates. So do continue using those, and that link is in the agenda. So, if you're ever sitting around on your hands and have 10 minutes to spare, just look around and see what's going on. We are on the league side, so on the actual administration, we have now accepted all the team commitments for 55 and over, mixed 40 and over, and combo leagues. So thanks to those who submitted their team commitment forms. I'll be working on those schedules over the next couple of weeks, and they're kind of staggered week by week, really more for, to allow me enough time to do all of them. So they will start in mid-March, kind of as we wrap up the current fall winter leagues. Really excited. Combo is, taking off. For those of you who don't know what it is, it has no impact on player ratings. It's a doubles only format, men and women. And, we're getting some traction, certainly on a women's side, especially on kind of lower end, the introductory, the 5-5, which is women's 2-5. And women's 3-0 playing together. So it's a great format for those players who really don't want the pressure of ratings, the pressure of winning, but just really want to do it for fun. So, we're happy that this is slowly growing. The next big league plan will be for adults 18 and over, men and women. The registration deadline for that is March 7th. All of you have received the link. You know the form by now, how to register a form. So please submit your forms by the 7th of March. Many of you already submitted. If you already know you'll have a team, do submit that. I like to get them as early as possible to just kind of get a general idea of what it's looking. In case you missed it, we did a survey last year where we asked the captains, because in the spring, summer, we run it as 2 singles, 3 doubles, and we just really got so many emails from captains, just really disheartened and frustrated that they were unable to have a 5-court format because, summers are really busy. People go away, a lot of holidays, graduations, and they really struggled with having a 5-court format. So for this year, we will have a 1 singles, 3 doubles. So we'll not have that second singles line. However, to kind of make up for it, for those players who want to play singles, we're introducing a singles flex league. We have marketing working on a 1-pager, which we will circulate for you to give to all your players who are interested in participating in this. And it is exactly what it's now. The singles flex league is basically a team of 1. It's 1 singles court at every level. Right now we have about 20 women signed up. We have a couple of men interested, but again, the deadline is March 7th, so we have plenty of time. And it's just the way you have it with teams. Each player will be a team of 1. Will be assigned to a flight. All the information will be there, and they will play a different singles player, and it is flexible, meaning the players will make the arrangements on when and where to meet and play. Regular league rules apply, and the match results do count for rating. So it's a really great vehicle for those players who love to play singles, who would be disappointed not to have that second singles line this year, as I'm sure there are some. Yes, Maria, at districts, at championships, thank you. The format will still be 5 singles, 5 courts, 5 singles, 5 courts, 2 singles, 3 doubles. So, if you have players on your team who play singles and want more singles practice, they can do both the flex league and your regular 18 and over in parallel and get extra practice with the singles flex league, so that come districts or sectionals, for 18 and over, they are warmed up and ready to go. That's on the 18 and over, and our 65 and over will run in the kind of late spring, summer. Usually it's a small-ish league, but not until April. We've got some time to decide, and we normally have some women's and men's teams. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. But would love to get that growing, and hopefully summer will be a great time. In the past, even with COVID, we were able to have a lot of outdoor matches. So the teams chose outdoor courts as their home base, and worked out great, I think.
Susanna, there were a couple of questions. One was about the combo.
Sure.
Danielle was wondering about how many matches were in a season.
So combo, just by way of background, we introduced it last year, and we didn't really know where to put it. So we kind of put it in the summer after all the seasons ended. The summer season ended at the end of July, so really put it July, August. We found that was really to be kind of a tough one to manage. So we're running this in the background, really from spring until the end of July, until the end of August. I foresee maybe about, I'll have to see how many teams I have in the flight, but I think my flights are 4, so I'm looking at 9 matches. So 3 rounds.
Okay, and I think, and for the women's 18 also.
For women's 18, I think, again, depending on flight size, I think I would aim to do, if it's a flight of 6, I would have 10 matches. If it's a flight of 5, I would have 8. So between 8 and 10. It's a short season. It's a 12-week season. And once you back out Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 8 to 10 is a good number.
Perfect. And I think Andrew might be covering this a little bit later, but Mina had asked if there were any thoughts about making the timeout rules uniform from Northern and Southern Connecticut.
Absolutely. I'll be addressing that in some detail.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So that's all I got. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer later, but I think Andrew's got the more exciting portion of this.
Okay, well, I don't know about exciting, but hi, everyone. I'm just going to comment. I see there's 83 participants, so that's a fantastic turnout. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Okay, on rules, regulations, and sportsmanship front, a few things to mention. There weren't many changes for 2022. Tri-level matches now need 1 of the 2 players on a court to be at level. I think those involved are all aware of that. We're working on some possible changes, and one relates to what was just mentioned. What we'd really like to do, and I say we, I chair the regulations subcommittee of the Connecticut League Committee, and that now covers the 3 areas, Northern, Southern, and Eastern. And we'd really like to standardize the rules between the 3 sections. In general, it will mean it's much easier for us to update. We can eliminate any differences between them, and we can have initiatives like the easy reference sheet across the whole of Connecticut. And then we can perhaps afford to have them printed up on a card. And I'd like to see a situation where every player has one of those in their tennis bag. But in the standardization process, the big one, if you like, is the match ending procedure. Now, we're looking at a couple of alternatives how to do that. At present, Southern Connecticut have a match ending procedure, which is fairly simple, certainly compared to Eastern and Northern. Eastern and Northern are aware that theirs are overly complex. So they're very much on board with trying to find something that we can all agree on and use in a uniform way. At the present time, and that's probably why the question's raised, we get quite a number of disputes where there's teams that traditionally play, say, in Eastern Connecticut, start to play in Southern Connecticut, or vice versa. And in fact, we had to reverse the decision of one match last year because of one team insisting that it was done one way and they were incorrect. So if we can all standardize, that'll be great. The criteria, the main criteria for the match ending procedure has to be, firstly, that it's simple to understand and explain. And secondly, that it actually clears the court by 2 hours, because even the Southern Connecticut procedure, you can still be in a position where you hit the 2 hours, we've just got to sort out what we've got to do. There's maybe another 2 points to play and your court's swarming with juniors showing up for a clinic or something like that. So we have to be in a position where it's, number 1, simple, and number 2, actually clears the court. One issue I just wanted to raise briefly, because I'd welcome any feedback, and I'm not going to take the feedback now, there's too many of us on, but if you have anything on this, we'd love to hear from you. Southern Connecticut, if you're in the second set, you probably know how it works right now. If you're still in that second set, to assess the winner, we count the games won. by each team. Now, that does mean that the match is won perhaps by the team that has the trend of the play, but it also creates a bit of an anomaly that the team who won the first set can actually lose the match, and the team that wins the match has actually not won a set yet. You know, if you had a 6-4 win by Team A in the first set, but in the second set, Team B is ahead by 5-2 when time is called, Team B is going to win, having not won. So the other alternative is to say that, okay, if we reach a point, let's say it's an hour and 50 minutes, and you're still in the second set, then we award the second set to the team that's leading. That's another way to do it, as opposed to counting games. On that aspect, if people have views on it, we'd love to hear from you. And maybe, if I may, Susanna, I'll suggest they email you and you can just pass them on to me. But if there are any thoughts on it, because I am getting some feedback from Eastern and Northern people who we're talking to, so I'd like to hear from Southern Connecticut people as well. But if there are any revisions to the match ending procedure, they will be for the next championship year, 2023, and it will be, if anything, simpler than we have now. But as I say, it has to actually clear the court. But I think it will certainly eliminate some of the problems we have with people not understanding match ending procedures, and also very importantly where people are playing cross league, which particularly between Eastern and Southern is happening more and more. One other rule that I just wanted to mention an aspect of. Oh, sorry, I missed one thing. Another thing regarding Eastern Connecticut that captains have mentioned to us, they have a strange system there where match fees are charged to the home club, and the home club pays the fees for both the home and away players. It gets very confusing for some captains who are traditionally work in Southern Connecticut. Our system is simple. You pay to play. Whether you're home or away, you just pay the desk. Just to let you know, yeah, Eastern Connecticut will be moving to that system almost certainly. We're just ironing out a few little kinks that one or two clubs will have with that, but we should all be on the same basis for the next season. Okay, going to current rules, we have a rule in place, as you know, regarding rescheduling of courts, that basically you must play the majority of courts on the day. Otherwise, you take a hit of maybe a court if you ask for a rescheduling. We also have the rule saying that a rescheduling request must be submitted. For instance, if it's just one court, must be submitted 3 days before the match date. Now, that ruling has certainly brought down the number of rescheduling requests. It's great. But the counter to that is that we're all in the same boat. We need accommodation sometimes. You can't play a court. And given that, we expect that if a team does need to request, say, a one-court rescheduling, and they give the correct notice, we really expect, as a league, we expect the other team to accommodate. Now, that hasn't always happened, so we just need to put a marker that we will get involved and encourage that accommodation if we need to. So please be mindful that, there might be a good reason the other team are asking, and you could be in the same boat next time. Now, if the problem is availability at the club, some clubs are just saying, no, we don't have any room for rescheduling. That's not a reason. Let us know at the league and we'll get involved. And if we need to, we'll help you find a neutral venue for the match. But we would like to see people accommodating when the other team has kept within the rules. Another issue that I have to mention because it's come up and I really want to try and protect captains here are court cancellations. We've had a number of issues suddenly where people are having to cancel courts, and of course in times of COVID this can happen at short notice, but the clubs all operate on a business basis. So the rule is that if you cancel a court within 24 hours out of the court time, you have to cover the.
Okay, I have to.
Could somebody mute off? Okay. You have to cover the match fee, although the club will obviously, if they are able to re-let the court, they should deduct that from what you owe. But in many instances, we've had courts cancelled and the club haven't been able to re-let the court. So if you're close to that 24-hour time, let's say you find out at 9 in the morning on a Friday that you can't play an 11 o'clock match. Yes, try and contact the other captain, but it's not enough to just send an email or text. You've got to get an acknowledgement and know the captain is going to tell the club. If you're the away captain and you don't have that confirmation, just make a call to the home club. I had to do that recently. I just called the club and said, look, I'm the captain of the away team. I have emailed your captain, but by the way, there's only going to be 3 courts used, not 4, because we have to default our singles court. So just bear that in mind. We just want to make sure that the captains don't end up out of pocket, certainly themselves, or don't end up having to go to their players for a contribution. And we just can't keep the club short. So please bear that in mind. Moving to what I'd call more a sportsmanship and general etiquette for matches. Just want to, everyone is pretty good, I think, on the whole, about acting as host club. But just remember, when you have another team visiting you, yeah, they are visitors to your venue. So first of all, the home captain ideally should be the one who reaches out maybe a week before the match. Don't forget to do that. Reach out to the other team. We look forward to welcoming you. Are you all set with your lineup? And please, when the away team arrives, make sure there's someone there to welcome them, as it were, and make sure they know where they're going to go, which courts they're going to be playing on. Treat them as your guests. That's we just want everyone to have a good experience when they go to other clubs. Which brings us on to one thing, which is an item that often comes up, and that's warm-up time before the scheduled match time. We've all been in a position where we turn up and the home club are all on the court practicing beforehand, and you only get your 10 minutes before the match time. We've said before, this is where sportsmanship comes in, and it's important that if there are courts available to let teams have a bit of extra warm-up time, of course they should do it. But the same courtesy should be offered by the home team to the away team. Share the courts, have the same people on the same courts, whatever you need to do. But what you shouldn't have, let's face it, if one team gets on court for an extra 15 minutes warm-up, they're really taking an unfair advantage. So for sportsmanship, please don't do that. Please make sure that you involve the other team on the court. One other thing, please use the match sheets on Tennis Link when you go to a match. We often see people turning up either with a little scrap of paper with their team on there, or they've got it on a phone. The rules are quite clear. They say lineup should be exchanged simultaneously. And the only way you can really do that fairly is you've got it written down on the Tennis Link match sheet. And then everyone knows you're not looking to see who the other people put on D1 before you decide yours. Now, you may say, well, the other team never seem to mind how I do it. Actually, they do. And they come back to us and say, hey, aren't they supposed to write this down? So use the Tennis Link match sheet. It's easy to print out, and it just makes it fair and much easier for everyone if you turn up with that filled out. Please make it easy for the home club. Now, the rules do say every player pays the home club desk. Captains, if you can turn up with a list of your player, you probably don't want to give them the lineup. You don't want to give that away in who's playing on what court, but just give them the 7 names. It's much easier for the person on the desk to just check them off, say, okay, John Smith's paid, Susan White hasn't, they can work it out. Courtside applause, I mentioned that before. Just be mindful of the fact that if you're at a club where there's no glass screen, say, between the courts and a spectator area, It does occur at a couple. Chelsea Piers is I know one. Just it might seem good to encourage your players, but it can be a real distraction to the other side. So please keep noise and applause to a minimum. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Just keep things sporting. That's the main thing. And that way we all have a good fun experience.
Just a quick addition, Andrew, what Andrew was saying, and I think as Monica's chat note, allow yourself extra time. You're traveling to the away club, maybe get there a little earlier so you can pay for your match fee, and that doesn't really, take away from your warm-up time or anything else. It's really a lot easier on everybody. I think with COVID, a lot of the clubs have, the processing is a little slower. Maybe they have a plexiglass divider, maybe the swipe is on the outside. So all of these things take a little bit longer. So just to the extent you can make this easier on everybody and show up early and pay ahead of time, prevents a lot of misunderstanding.
Susanna, along those lines, one thing that I find happens a lot is that away players show up and don't check in at the front desk and pay. If you could have captains remind their players to make sure that they pay when they arrive.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I missed when I was talking about the match ending procedure. One other just reminder I meant to put in, because I've experienced it myself a few times. Get your players on court and moving quickly on the start time. If the start time's 11, try and get everyone starting their warm up and keep their warm up to 10 minutes. We've all seen clubs where suddenly you're 20, 25 minutes in and they haven't actually started playing yet. And that's the way you're going to hit the 2-hour time limit. So keep the warm up to the 10 minutes allowed and get the match started. If there's no any questions, by all means ask. Otherwise, I'll hand back to Susanna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, the 2-hour timeout really is probably the most contentious one. And to the extent, what I personally do in my matches is when we realize we're going to be, we're in a third set and we have 10 minutes. If all four agree, you don't switch sides. So a 10-point tie break where the score is 10-8 and nobody switched sides is a lot less contentious than one where you change sides and somebody's upset, somebody's moving too slowly or tying their shoelaces and you end up, 6-4. You just want to kind of avoid having a situation like that. And, to the extent you can avoid some of these conflicts, that'd be great for everyone, because you'll be playing a lot of these, the same players again and again in the future. I think we answered the questions that came up in the chat as we went along. Oh, for clay courts, should the home team ensure the courts are swept and ready for the start time? I don't think there's anything in our regulations that says that. I happen to play out of a clay court and we, both sides sweep. We sweep our respective sides. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think that's just the case of whatever the club practice is. I mean, if the club have someone who does that, fine. If not, yeah, you all just pitch in.
Unfortunately, in a lot of clubs, tennis is so popular. There's just really no way to ensure it's perfectly ready and swept when you get on the court at 1 p.m. So kind of eats into your warm-up time, but what are you going to do? I'm concerned about, I'm concerned about what happens in a singles flex league, since we typically do 35 per person in a match, but you're subject to regular court fees. No, and I will send a separate email to the clubs about this. I expect the $35 per person fee to stand. I mean, really incrementally, it's really no different than if we held to the 5-court format and they had to have a court for a singles, an additional singles player, as opposed to now it's just happening as a separate, separate match as opposed to part of a team. So this really economically, this should not be a different story to them. And I will make sure that the host clubs are aware of this. And if they're not, if they're not in agreement, we can move the match somewhere else.
Suzanne, you taking any questions ad hoc?
Sure.
Okay, Doug Presley. I understand why this decision of reducing the size of the singles courts on the adult leagues in order to have leagues locally and ensure participation. But we are hamstringing the hell out of Southern Connecticut to go to postseason. I think you indicated that everybody else is still playing 3-2 that will meet in the New Englands. And it is impossible to win a match or to advance beyond sectionals if we're spending a season with one singles player and we end up going on a Saturday and play a doubleheader on Saturday, which you always do, and have to field 4 singles courts. You just a hamstrung. So we basically lowered the bar to increase participation here, I understand. But what we've done is really hamstring us to advance beyond sectionals.
Well, my 2 cents on that, and Christy, if you want to jump in, I mean, I think less than 20% of our teams advance to championships at all, let alone advance beyond districts and sections.
That's not going to improve.
No, well, I mean, the growing the local leagues is certainly my number one priority. And I was in a situation where a lot of the teams were actually looking to drop out because they can't provide that last line. I mean, if you have singles players who want to do a singles flex league in addition to your team, they can certainly get the practice. I mean, I don't really see.
Yeah, but you got to get them qualified. You know, you've got to get them qualified on your team. You know, they've got to play. They got to play a couple of singles matches. So, yeah, you need 4 singles players of some level of ability to be able to compete effectively against the rest of New England on a 3-2 format. We were victimized when we did 40 and over league. The first time we did a 40 and over league, we were the same format as we have now, but we went to the New Englands facing all the other states that had been playing a whole season with 3-2. And Saturday was a horror show of, we weren't able to win singles matches. We were playing doubles players at singles and not winning those matches. Clearly, we can't compete up there in that kind of format. So it's fine. I mean, we keep our leagues going here, but we really hurt ourselves going forward. Just that involves a lot of teams, a lot of adult teams. That's why this is not like our senior problem, our senior league.
No, I understand. I mean, I think we have a handful of teams that are in a really good position where they have large rosters and they want more matches and they want, a larger format. They want the 5 format, but majority, 80%, they can barely string it together. We can't run it with just the 20% teams.
And I'm sensitive to that with the senior season. So, yeah.
Doug, just so you know, there are 4 other local areas that are doing 1 and 3 on the 18 and over because they can't field enough of the singles lines either. So Southern Connecticut's not going to be the only one doing that.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. And that's it's for the same reason that Susanna is working to grow the local areas. We just don't have enough singles players, and we were having a lot of trouble fielding full teams and making flights and to meet critical mass. And also Susanna had done the survey out to all of the captains, and it was pretty overwhelming. So, we'll try it this way. If it doesn't work out and a majority of the captains want to go back, we can always look at it in a year or two. But this seems to be the best way forward this year as for Southern Connecticut and several other areas. We're still not back to our 2019 numbers. We still don't have the roster sizes or the players that are out there just due to COVID.
Yeah, that's the real problem. That's the real problem is participation. I mean, that's, it's not the size of I mean, I guess we shrink our league sizes to fit the participation. I would much rather see us somehow increasing our participation somehow, as opposed to changing our formats to meet a downsized participation. It's discouraging.
I very much agree because I'm one of those captains who always has fairly robust rosters, and cutting down the number of opportunities for players to play, turns players away. One of the things that I mentioned to Susanna when that survey result first came out was perhaps trying for one season what they do in Westchester, which is have 4 singles lines and 4 doubles lines and 1 singles line. So at least you're getting more people out there and playing.
That's an interesting approach. If that's the problem for our lack of participation. I don't know, but it's the teams that are dropping out. Our senior league has been around for 45, 50 years, and it's going to collapse this year. And it's really sad. It really is sad. So I'm not sure what it's causing, whether it's COVID or whether it's because people aren't playing enough on big rosters. That would be an interesting format, increasing the size, adding a doubles court. That would be interesting.
And Maria, you were the other person I was thinking of when I was making that comment. Let's see how this season goes. I'm open to, and Christy, tell me what you think. I'm open to doing another survey and giving people a choice and seeing what they go with. I think I get it. I get that there are a lot of, large teams that have plenty of players who want to play more. I get it. On the senior side, it's just so tricky. We're talking about 55 and over 80 guys. Anytime, and it's not just seniors, anytime we have a league that's small, that's like 4 teams, anytime you lose one, then it becomes an odd size. Then somebody doesn't want to play a 2 or 3 team league, and it just naturally falls apart, which is really frustrating. I mean, we'll keep trying, but
It's lack of captains. Maybe you should increase the salary to captains, so maybe that would help.
Susanna, one of the things
get your raise.
Yeah, give me a raise.
Susanna, one of the other things that might be considered, but I think this is a USTA wide thing, change. Several years back, the senior league was 50 and over, and those 5 years can make a difference in terms of player playability.
Hey, get away from that. Cut that out.
Let me answer that. I can tell you, Maria, when they went to the original age back to the original age restructure, the 18, the 40, the 55s, it's pretty set in stone. They're never going to go back to the 50s. There's not even any talk of it at the national level. I totally hear you, and I understand what you're saying. I can just tell you that that's not even on the menu. There was a national regulation proposal this year to go to instead of for the 40 and over 1 singles and 3 doubles, to do 1 singles and 4 doubles. It's not official yet, but I'm pretty sure just from listening to the conversation that it's probably not going to pass. But there is talk about trying to figure out how to make that 4 line into a little bit better situation. So if you guys have any suggestions on that, we are always open to any kind of regulation change proposals. Doug, to your point, with participation, we have our marketing team behind us, but you guys are the ones that are on the ground, and however we can support the players, the captains. I'm sorry, Susanna didn't give you your raise. I'll talk to her about it later. But we'd really like, any ideas that you guys have. We do our best, but sometimes you guys have a better feel for what's going on the court.
Yeah, put that 4th doubles court, and that's required singles players to play on it. And we'll go up and kick butt at the sectionals every year if you did that for us, because we'd be able to roster a lot of singles players that way. So anyway, good idea.
I just think that people want to be able to play, but not many people want to play singles.
That's right. Did anybody ever notice how many few 18-year-olds are in our 18 and over leagues? There are very
Our
very
average
few.
age is 47.
I'm sure, and it's older on my team.
But
I think in Southern Connecticut, it's in the 50s. Actually, it's in the low 50s in Southern Connecticut specifically. It's even older.
Okay.
I
Yep.
believe it.
But in the summer league, it changes dramatically, because when we were at districts last summer, we encountered people from Northern who their singles players were like 25-year-old college players. And we couldn't compete against them.
Oh, we've been there before.
Can we just quickly go? I think I don't want to miss any of the questions in the chat, just real quick. There was a question from Danielle. Is there a rule that everybody needs to be off the court a certain number of minutes before a match
Did I
starts?
take that one?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say the answer is no, there isn't, because obviously any pre-match warm-up is just informal if there happens to be court availability. So the important thing is that the captain, I literally walk on the court and yell out, okay, everyone get on the right court when it's say 11 a.m. or something. You just got to be prepared to get down there, terminate it, and get them all where they've got to be for the match. But there's no rule on that, because that's just an informal arrangement.
Andrew, didn't there used to be a rule that said that everyone had to be off the courts like 10 or 5 minutes before match start so that you can get your court assignments? I remember that from the rules some years back.
Well, I don't quite follow that, because how could you? Oh, you mean all your players if there's a
Right.
match?
Yeah.
Because I mean the court may not be available. I don't recall a rule like that, and I think
It's not a rule, but
I don't think we want to micromanage how the club do it. Some captains like everyone up in the reception area and tell them, okay, introduce who's going where. Others tend to do that down on the court, and I don't think we want to micromanage how the captains want to approach it.
yeah, it's
So-
not a rule, but it's a practice. Typically, the matches I've been in, maybe 5 minutes to the captain does the welcome or signs the court so that we can get on courts right away. I mean, you can't get there sooner. They could have a clinic. There could be a lesson that they've paid for. You go down at your scheduled time.
So you ladies are so polite. The men's courts, we just yell at each other, figure it out, and get them on the right court that way.
Quick thing. Chrissy, I think this one may be for you about playoffs closer to Connecticut. There seems to be disadvantage traveling to Massachusetts and Rhode Island, realizing that is a greater issue overall.
So we have the championship subcommittee, which is made up of partially the section league committee, your state representatives, and other volunteers are the ones that really work on the calendar. And we're trying to make a few changes this year. The massive change we made was the 55s moving out into September. And we don't want to make a ton of changes all at once, because let's be honest, I'm still new and we're still trying to work with some of these clubs. The biggest problem that we've had with working with the clubs, especially in Southern Connecticut, wow, it's a really long drive for you guys, is that the clubs don't give us any cut rates, and we simply can't afford it. And I've worked with them, I've talked to them, I've given them all of the contracts that I've used with every other club in the section, and they want full price. And we just can't buy out 3 days of a club unless we raise your prices a lot. And I don't want to do that either. So we're still trying to work with some of the Southern Connecticut clubs, and we'll keep trying. So if you guys have any ins with anybody or anything, let me know. I'm happy to take it back to the subcommittee for the future.
Christy, I have one idea, which is, some of the sectionals are played in like Ludlow and Enfield. That's at least more central than having to go all the way to the Boston suburbs.
Yes, and we are using Enfield, Ludlow, and the East Hartford. Those are kind of the three when we call it Western Mass for the indoor. And I definitely hear you. When we go to Eastern Mass, we have a 14-court club, a 10-court club, and an 8-court club that are within about 30 minutes of each other. And sometimes just for sheer volume, we have to use that. But I will pull this back into the championship subcommittee and talk to them and see what changes that we can make.
I mean, this is a subject that I've raised a number of times. There have been a couple of summers where I've gone up to the Winchester Woburn clubs like 3 or 4 times for different teams, and it becomes pricey, at the end of the summer to go that many times.
Especially when with sectionals, if it's divided over 2 weekends, it's very, very hard to get everybody up for full weekends. We had one sectionals this year in 2021 where we had games Friday and Sunday or something, and I think something happened with the Saturday, so we had people up there for 3 days and not matches all the time. I think it would be great if we could arrange it so that maybe you had women one weekend, men the other, and you didn't have to divide it up into 2 weekends, 2 weeks apart.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. And I definitely will talk to them. Again, we end up with 12 weekends, 12 championships in a row, and limited staff. We just don't have the weekends. And once it gets into after Labor Day and then, before Memorial Day, the clubs also don't have weekends that they can give us in a lot of cases. I have been working with them to move a few things outdoors. I'm kind of an outdoor person, but we always have to have indoor backup just in case as well. So I've been taking notes, and I will take that back and let them know that, some of the players would like us like split men and women, and let me see what we can do. And I'll, keep talking, as you keep talking to Susanna, we'll start working with them and see how we can make some changes.
Just a couple of other questions. Southern Connecticut, we also play in New York now. Our sectionals are the same weekend for 55 and over.
Yeah, I didn't have access to the New York calendar. Neither did this championship subcommittee. But when we look for 2023, I will specifically talk with the New York people and see if we can get a hold of their calendar before we set our date. The same with, as you guys, if any of you guys play in the senior slams, we're working with our adult player committee to try not to get our sectionals and our championships on the same days as the senior slams tournaments. It's not always possible because the grass courts only have certain times and the clay courts, but know that there is conversation going on and we're trying to work those things out as well.
Just a quick comment on the scheduling. I think Myra is saying for playoffs in Rhode Island or Massachusetts, it'd be great if the Connecticut teams were not given the earliest time on Saturday morning and latest on Sunday, since that means we'd have to pay an extra hotel's night. I guess, I don't, Christy, does that come into account? I mean, at this point, if it's everybody's coming from somewhere, right, for sectionals?
Yeah, and it's completely random. I did my very best when I first started to look at some of the accommodations that people had asked for, and I realized really quickly that there was no way that I could accommodate everybody, and I also didn't know who wasn't asking me. So the scheduling basically is a draw out of a hat. When I look at it, the one thing I try to make sure is that, especially for you guys in Southern Connecticut and in Eastern Mass, I don't want you going to championships and playing somebody that was in the same flight or somebody. I try to get you guys as far apart in that manner, but when it comes to times, it's completely random because people coming from Northern Maine and Northern New Hampshire, it's the same frustration. And so we just try to do our best to make it random. And I agree with you, Matthew, about the club in the Winchester. It does get really warm in there. There's no air conditioning, but not very many teams from Winchester. It's not all teams from Winchester that play there. So, and it's hot.
It just seems that way.
It's hot at Woburn too.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Just a quick thing, Danielle, the combo league, I think if you missed it, it's a 5-5, 6-5 combination, a 2-5 playing with a 3-0. I think you play out of 4 seasons. There's a 5-5 team out of 4 seasons, but we can circle back and the registration for the team has passed, but we have a handful of teams that are signed up in case you're looking for a home. And the results do not count towards ratings if that's of importance to you. Anything else? I think that's all I see. All right, so I think if there's nothing else, I think we can wrap this up. And again, as Andrew mentioned and Christy mentioned, to the extent you have any suggestions on any of the regulations, especially as we're trying to standardize across the 3 parts of Connecticut, do send them my way. We'll look at them. We compile the same way we did for tri-level regulations last year. We'll look at them, we put them to a vote, we discuss it, and if it makes sense, we put it in place for next year. And we'll definitely watch how the format works for 18 and over this summer. Again, it's, we went for what was requested by the majority of respondents, and maybe we send out another survey and see if there's, if there's something we want to tweak for next year if this is not going very well. But there's definitely a lot of frustration on the format, and which is really what prompted the survey in the first place. But let's see how this goes, and if we need to change it, we'll change it. And that's all I have. And again, thank you so much. I think especially the last 2 months, I don't know of a single team that hasn't been affected by, their teams being decimated by COVID. And I feel like everybody did a really great job. I got very few complaints from captains. I think everybody, was in the same boat, and they understood they had to be flexible. And I'm hoping this is kind of behind us now, as we're, sub 5% positivity rate, and we can kind of move forward and enjoy our lives a little bit longer. And thank you again. And I think that's it. And Christy, John, and Andrew, did you want to hang out for just a couple of minutes after? Or?
Yeah, that would be great. And I wanted, Lori Walker has asked me a question about ratings. Lori, if you'll email me, that's probably a better way for me to answer. It'll probably be easier, and we'll drag Pete into that question. So that'd be great. But yeah, I can hang out too.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and you have a good night.
Thanks, Susanna.
Thank you.